Masks. In the midst of the health crisis caused by COVID-19 where we find ourselves, we must protect our health and that of those around us above all else. Masks have become our best ally for the prevention of the spread of this virus. But what is its origin? Since when are they used? In today's episode, we'll be checking out everything there is to know about masks. But before we proceed, subscribe to this channel if you're new here. Turn on your post notification by clicking on the bell so you don't miss out on any of our updates. If you stay through to the end of this video, you'll know if cloth masks are effective. Evolution of masks. How exactly did the first mask arise? What is their role in evolution throughout history? The origin of the mask dates back to between 1346 and 1353, when the plague occurred, the pandemic that left almost 25 million dead worldwide. In the midst of this crisis, the use of the mask and other protective elements emerged for the doctors who treated those infected by the plague to avoid the spread of the disease, since it was believed that it was spread by the pestilential odors that emanated from the bodies. The bird's beak mask. This striking mask, shaped like a bird's beak, is one of the oldest surviving masks. It was made of velvet, leather, and glass eyes. In order to avoid contagion and increase their level of protection, the doctors used leather gloves, glasses, a wide-brimmed hat, and a huge waxed leather coat that reached the ankles. Although this mask seems funny when you study it, the peculiarity of the bird beak shape has several purposes. The long beak prevented the doctor from getting too close to the breath of the infected, while the long and hollow area could be filled with aromatic plants to reduce the bad smell. The mask also included glass eyes to protect the eyes. However, we now know it could only have been useful in cases of pneumonic plague, which is spread as the coronavirus does today. Not so in the case of bubonic, which was transmitted by the bite of infected fleas from rodents. The look of this mask has been so iconic and extravagant that, for example, in Italy, its use became popular for costumes such as the Plague Doctor. Filtered masks and GIBB'S first respirator. The use of masks throughout history has not only been to combat diseases such as the plague, but also as a protective measure against the inhalation of harmful gases. Thus, in 1854, it was discovered that activated carbon could be used as a filtration medium for various vapors and was incorporated into the masks and filters of many miners, such as the John Stenhouse mask. At the end of the 19th century, the GIBB'S respirator was created as a defense against the inhalation of poisonous powders, mainly intended for industrial workers. Although it doesn't seem to be a very complex model, it would be the basis used in later decades to develop a much more effective respirator. Surgical masks. Don't be fooled by the name surgical. This mask wasn't meant for only doctors. So between the fall of 1910 and the spring of the following year, a devastating pneumonic plague caused more than 60,000 deaths in this area of northeast China. After discovering that the disease was spreading through the air, Dr. Wu Lente developed surgical masks with layers of gauze and cotton. It was an unprecedented plague because, for the first time in the history of humanity, it was active for more than a century, from the year 1855 to 1959. The bubonic plague spread across 5 continents and became known as the third pandemic of plague. According to the WHO, the pandemic was considered active until 1960, when worldwide deaths fell to 200 a year. Gas masks. We have talked about the use of filter masks to protect against harmful gases in mining industries. However, it was during the World War that the use and quantity of gas masks increased considerably. Why exactly is this so? If you study the world's history, you discover that World War I was the first fight in history in which chemical gases were used as an attack weapon. In this war, the most lethal chemical weapons in history were used experimentally. These vapors are estimated to have killed about 90,000 people. Both sides had to devise gas masks to prevent the extermination of their armies. General masks. The generalized use of the mask occurred for the first time at the beginning of the 20th century with the arrival of the Spanish flu in 1918. The one chosen was the surgical mask type, but inferior in protection to the current one, since most were homemade, with gauze, tape, and other materials. Both workers and families wore masks to protect themselves from the flu. The mask during World War II. Zyklon B, the gas used by the Nazis in the death camps to carry out the final solution, was the deadliest weapon in World War II. Although chemical weapons were not used during the war, it was an object that the German army soldier carried to all places. Reusable cloth masks. The Great Smog was a period of environmental pollution that occurred in December 1952, which covered the city of London. The phenomenon was considered one of the worst environmental impacts back then. It was caused by the use of fossil fuels in industry and transportation. The population was submerged under a dense mixture of fog and smoke that forced the British to use cloth masks to avoid inhaling these gases. Masks in the Cold War and chemical wars. The threat of a nuclear war between the West and the USSR was constant during the second half of the 20th century. This is a prototype of a Soviet-made GP5 gas mask that began to be distributed to the population in 1962 and was designated to protect against radioactive particles. The most striking characteristics of this mask is that it had a 24-hour protective effect. Masks in the new normal, the era of the coronavirus. Masks and various facial protection elements, such as screens or visors, are now part of our lives, converted into a protection mechanism against the spread of COVID-19, used both by health professionals and staff of establishments, hotels, and shops, as well as the population on a daily basis. Can any medical condition prevent the use of masks? What medical conditions or circumstances can prevent a person from wearing the mask? Actually, there's no defined list of recognized medical or mental health conditions or disabilities that prevent someone from wearing a mask. Even if there is, there may be individual variations in tolerance for use between people with the same condition. One person might tolerate a mask and another person might not. Masks can also pose special challenges for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, or for those with other disabilities or communication needs. The executive order not only provides exemptions for individuals who are unable to wear the mask due to a medical or mental condition or disability, but it also allows individuals who do not suffer from such conditions to temporarily remove the mask while communicating with someone who's deaf or hard of hearing, or a disability or disorder that makes it difficult to communicate with that person if you use it. Are cloth masks effective? Cloth masks can reduce the risk of infection, but not enough studies have been done on them in real-world settings to know if they protect the user from contracting the coronavirus, report the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering and Medicine, NASEM. Cloth coverings most likely help prevent an infected person from infecting others by reducing the spread of respiratory droplets when talking, coughing, or sneezing. Dr. Gonzalo Behrman, epidemiologist, deputy hospitaller, and chairman of the Division of Infectious Diseases at Virginia Commonwealth University's School of Medicine, advised that when wearing a mask, it is important not to neglect other preventative measures, such as frequent hand washing and physical distancing. Mitigating the risk of contracting COVID-19 requires a multiple approach, which includes distancing and social isolation, in addition to hygiene and the use of a mask. Fact is, it's not about adhering to just one safety guideline. You have to do everything. Are cloth masks washable? Masks accumulate germs, so it is important to wash them after each use, the CDC advises. If you use a washing machine, you can use normal laundry detergent and warm water. If you wash your mask by hand, mix a solution of bleach and water. This mixture should contain about 4 teaspoons of household bleach for every quarter of room temperature water. Finally, soak the mask for 5 minutes before rinsing it off with cold or room temperature water. Should masks be worn at all times? You don't need to wear a mask if you don't feel sick. This was the prevailing recommendation at the beginning of the pandemic, but it is no longer. Experts now know more about the coronavirus and how it is transmitted, and today the recommendation of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, is that everyone, even people who feel totally healthy, should wear facial coverings in public places where it is difficult to stay at least 6 feet away from other people. This includes supermarkets, pharmacies, retail businesses, beauty salons, busy parks, and more. Why should you wear a mask at all times? It is a one more protection mechanism. The coronavirus is thought to spread easily between people who are in close contact with each other through respiratory droplets, which are produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. And because some infected people are pre-symptomatic or even asymptomatic, and therefore run the risk of transmitting the virus to others unknowingly, a mask provides an additional barrier to prevent respiratory droplets from spreading through the air and reaching others. People who feel ill should stay home and not go out into public places. However, they should wear a mask in their interactions with family members or caregivers at home. Are poorly fitting masks manageable? No, they are not. The key is to make sure your mask is snug enough on the sides of the face and it's also comfortable, and should fully cover the mouth and nose to help prevent respiratory droplets from escaping. But it is also important that you can breathe freely when you wear it. Balance is key. Should babies wear masks? According to the CDC, children under the age of 2 should not wear masks, and neither are those people who have trouble breathing, are unconscious, incapacitated, or who for some other reason cannot remove the mask without help. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Kindly like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell for more video updates. Bye!